Hello, the world #1 men's tennis player Novak Djokovic has been included in the draw for the Australian Open, despite it being unclear whether he'll be deported. The Serbian is at the centre of a dispute about whether he was medically exempt from receiving a COVID vaccine. All eyes are on the Australian Immigration Minister Alex Hawke, who's yet to make a decision on the case. Here's Shaima Khalil in Melbourne with the latest.
We really didn't learn anything about his visa status and whether or not he's going to be allowed to remain here and play and defend his title. We know he's in the draw. He's the top seed. He'll be playing fellow Serb Miomir Kecmanovic, but we don't know if this is going to go ahead actually when the Australian Open starts. He was training earlier today. He was training yesterday. I think the optics of him training is his message to say that I want to do this. I want to compete. I want to defend my title. But whether or not the government sees it the same way, is another question entirely. And to be honest, it feels like they're just dragging this on now. They're dragging their feet. Everybody is waiting for an answer on whether or not he's going to play. But of course, there's a lot of politics in the background that cannot be denied. This is a government that has been under an immense amount of pressure about the way that they have handled COVID-19, especially the Omicron wave, and they want to be seen as taking every step in considering Novak Djokovic's case. Remember, he also made those revelations yesterday about providing false information on his travel declaration visa. He called it human error, an administrative mistake that he blamed his agent for. But he also admitted that he violated COVID-19 isolation rules because he knew he was infected. He knew he was positive and did an interview with the French publication L'Equipe anyway, and at one point took off his mask for a photo shoot. We know that the immigration minister is considering all of this, plus additional information that was provided by Novak Djokovic's team, and has yet to make a decision.
And Shaima, we did almost think perhaps that announcement was imminent when we heard that the draw for the Australian Open was delayed by a little while, but that draw's now been made. Do we know what's going on in the immigration department? Why the delay, and why is this decision taking so long?
No one knows, and you're right. There was this bizarre moment earlier today where everybody was waiting for the draw, waiting to see what happens there, and then the draw was delayed, and then we understood it was delayed after it was announced that Scott Morrison was going to speak, and we had this moment where we just thought, we are going to have a decision now, and that's what they're waiting for, and we didn't get one, and so the draw went ahead anyway, and I think everybody is a bit puzzled now about why this delay. The government wants to essentially say that they have strong grounds, that they've looked at this, very, very carefully. They've looked at all the details and they've made that decision. But the longer this takes, the closer you get to the Australian Open, which is due to start on Monday, the more confusing the situation gets and the more tense it actually becomes.
Shaima Khalil with that situation of limbo there in Melbourne. Well, what about the view from Novak Djokovic's home country of Serbia? I spoke to our correspondent Guy Delorney, who's in Belgrade.
We wake up every morning and we have a look. We anxiously scan the Australian media, the BBC, our BBC colleagues, what are they saying? We scan the Serbian media, what's going on in there? And it wasn't quite the roller coaster ride that we had on Monday when Novak Djokovic was released from quarantine, and then there were fears that he might be rearrested and deported. But no, he's out again. It was a bit of a children's roller coaster today, a small dip when that draw for the Australian Open was postponed and Scott Morrison was going to speak. And again, like Shaima says, we all thought, is this the moment? And it wasn't looking good for Novak Djokovic at that point. But now he's in the first round of the Australian Open. At least he's been drawn in the first round of the Australian Open. And hey, good news, there will be a Serbian player in the second round of the Australian Open this year, whatever happens. Whether that's Novak Djokovic or not, of course, we don't know.
Indeed. And that revelation by Novak Djokovic in that statement that he did break self-isolation rules in Serbia when he knew he was COVID positive, is there likely to be any comeback, any consequence of that?
Well, we spoke to the Prime Minister earlier this week and we asked her if it was shown that Novak Djokovic had knowingly gone out and about while he was COVID positive what would that mean? And she said it would be a clear breach of Serbian regulations. We spoke to a legal expert yesterday and asked what a breach of that regulations would mean for Novak Djokovic. And he said, well, it's a breach of the Serbian legal code, which carries a maximum prison sentence of up to 3 years imprisonment. He's unlikely to get that, but he may get a fine, or he may get community service, or he may get something exemplary simply because he is Novak Djokovic. But the difficulty is, of course, he's not living in Serbia. He lives in Monte Carlo, so any enforcement of that would be quite tricky, it would seem.
That's Guy Deloni in Belgrade, the Serbian capital, while we wait to hear, and we still haven't heard a clear decision from the Australian Immigration Minister about what is going on with Novak Djokovic and whether or not he will be deported. We will be bringing you that news to you as soon as we get any decision.